Hello and welcome to the Lou Review podcast. I'm your host, Rosa Hart. And on the Lou Review, this is where I get to interview local business owners and nonprofit leaders and generally any amazing humans that are making the Louisville, Kentucky area a great place to be. And I'm so excited to share with you one of my favorites. This is Kristina Winner, also known as Kristina Bianca Cabañas Winner. Yes. So Kristina and I met when she had first come to Louisville as a physician, because became a physician in the Philippines, right?
Correct.
And then you moved here. And she's also like a foodie and travel influencer on Instagram and makes incredible content. And honestly, like your videos are just to die for. Like I just absolutely love the quality of videos that you make. And it's restaurants, it can be things that you're making at home, but lately you've been like merging a lot more of your research physician take on things into that space. And so I'd love to talk to you more about that. But you're also an entrepreneur. You bought and sold a business, and this can be a really business leaning podcast sometimes because we really like to highlight the local business owners. And I think this concept of buying and selling businesses is something we really haven't covered on this podcast before. So I hope you'll be willing to share a little bit about that experience and what that's like in case someone else is interested.
Yeah, no, definitely. So talking about, the content I'm creating now and kind of that pivot I made not too long ago, actually. So Rosa, you and I did connect on Instagram when I was still creating food content and, travel content, lifestyle related stuff. And then, food is always going to be part of my life. But recently I've just been just consuming and in the thick of research, literature, publications. And I think social media is so powerful because all of us are on social media, if not like most of us are. And we're just consuming a lot of things that are being talked about by, unfortunately, people who don't really have the credibility to be educating us on, especially when it comes to health and wellness. And it can get very, very tricky, especially if you turn to Dr. TikTok for like medical advice. And so I thought it was really, really important for, people like you and people like me who are in the space and have been exposed to patients and on my end, clinical research, which is very, very important, especially from a consumer standpoint. So I really decided to make that pivot and was very intentional about it because I felt really passionate about it. It's what I do on a daily basis. I work in clinical research, something that I feel like consumers have gotten really, really smart about is consuming, with some clinical backing or some evidence or some data to support what these packages are claiming, right? And so it's not just necessarily food. And on the entrepreneur side or entrepreneurship side, you're right. Like, I don't think acquisition entrepreneurship is something that people really talk about. In fact, it's not something I knew anything about. I didn't even know it existed. I didn't even know you could buy a business because people are always saying, I just started, a business or I'm a founder,
Right.
all these
They
things.
talk about starting a business, building a business, but buying somebody else's business and then doing something with it and then selling it for a profit. Like, what is that?
Exactly. And so a lot of it started in 2024 was just me consuming YouTube videos of people who were talking about it openly. And I was very attracted to the buy a boring business model, and I thought to myself, by the end of this year, I promised myself by the end of this year, which was in 2024, I'm going to buy a business. And so I ended up buying a business later in the year of 2024. And then early 2025 is when I officially started running it. And so, to your point earlier, yeah, I actually bought and sold the business. I want to say operationally, I ran it for less than a year, but I also sold it in less than a year, which is a very unique situation to be in. I'm not saying that's going to be everybody.
Definitely. And I really appreciated you sharing your journey from the time you bought it to like when you were showcasing the worth of the business, which I'm sure played a part into its resale value, right? Because you were putting in your own elbow grease and making sure you understood all of the facets of it. Like at one point, you were washing windows by hand yourself, right?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like when you buy a business, especially, or whether you're building a business or you founded a business, I think it's important to know what it takes and each role that each of your employees plays, you have to know what that entails. And you don't necessarily have to be great at it. But I thought for me personally, if I bought this window cleaning business, which I did, it wouldn't have made sense for me to buy it and then have people come in, clean the windows. We also did gutter cleaning, pressure washing. We cleaned, rafters. And so it didn't make sense to me to be, in a way, like leading this team, but not knowing how to do it. I personally, as an employee, would not want to listen to somebody in that leadership position if they didn't know what it took. So that was my mindset around needing, it was out of necessity for sure. And it was fun. Like it was a great experience. I've never done that before.
Right. So we got to kind of like learn alongside you because you were using some of your social media skills to I don't know if I would say build a community around it because it was already your community, right? But like raising awareness around what you were doing and in a really organic, authentic way. And so I love that merger of all your skills coming together and showing up in that way. So for people in Louisville who would be interested in having their own business, but they don't have like some unique idea that they want to start, or they don't want to have to build something from scratch, how does one even get started in finding a business to buy here locally?
Yeah. So my approach was kind of tailored to what I had been consuming on social media. One person I follow is Cody Sanchez. I know you've heard of her and you know her.
We've been sharing those YouTubes back and forth.
Yes, yes. We've exchanged notes, you and I, and so you're very familiar with her. So she just had a very, interesting approach to where not just relying on what's on social media, because there are platforms where you can buy businesses and it's almost like a marketplace. BizBuySell is one of the places that I had looked, and there's a couple other, business marketplaces that you can kind of browse. But what I did in the earlier stages was I actually went to these mom and pop local businesses and I targeted gas stations and laundromats, and I actually went in and spoke to people who were in those stores or like these, service-based businesses, and I spoke to them, and a lot of them naturally like ignored me. Some of them did acknowledge, my questions. You don't really expect, and you shouldn't expect, a response. It's kind of like an exercise. When you're doing this exercise, you're trying to, learn how to put yourself out there and learn how to deal with people, learn how to negotiate, get to know where their business is at, why they even would consider selling their business. Like, what's the motivation behind it? Because I think a big factor that needs to be considered is if you find a seller who is very motivated, I think there's a lot more wiggle room for you as a buyer to negotiate and find like an agreement or a deal that's going to be beneficial to both parties. So I would say start with the marketplace, start talking to local business owners. I think also telling your friends that you're looking to buy a business, because then it'll be on their radar. Like you might know a friend who's an entrepreneur as well, and they have like a network of people who are also entrepreneurs. So they can put the word out there and say, hey, my friend Rosa's interested in buying a business. And that's kind of how it starts. It kind of snowballs. So I wouldn't restrict yourself to looking on, the internet or these marketplaces. I think it's a lot more fun when you talk to people that are local, like businesses that have been running or around for 10 plus years and, the owner is ready to retire. I think those are the most lucrative. Sometimes they could be the most lucrative businesses because they've been around for so long.
And they've already got name recognition, they've already got
Exactly.
a reputation, and maybe the owner wants to pass it on to somebody who will keep it alive and their kid doesn't want to do it, for example.
Exactly. Exactly.
But they may not have it listed on one of those marketplaces because they're not trying to have a whole bunch of people coming in from the outside
For
to
sure.
swoop in and
Yeah.
ruin their little local thing. So I think your organic approach of through conversation is really interesting because it really maintains that relational aspect that, especially in the Louisville community, we really value. People buy from people, and they especially buy from people in Louisville, a very great small business community where people want to support each other and the small businesses support each other. And so I think you're in the right place to where that is really especially appreciated.
No, 100%. I think there is a group now that is starting to or has already formed. It's called ETA, or Entrepreneurship Through Acquisition. And I think they have like these meetings where they get together, talk about deals that are out there, and are also they take in people who are interested to buy and like don't really know what the process takes. So I think that's another great resource, is to kind of find,
Yeah.
like you said, your network of people, these groups, because they're out there. And I can only speak to Louisville, right? They've been very supportive. Like business owners here are very supportive. Like everybody wants everybody else to win, from what I've seen so far.
Yeah, it's great. And I do love that about entrepreneurs, is that for the most part, they understand that they're not taking a piece of each other's pie. They are baking pies. And
Exactly.
then
I
there's
like
be
that.
more. Yeah. Well, then there's going to be more to go around. And a lot of it can also be bringing in money from out of town, not taking away from what else is in town. But we have a huge tourism business, thanks to everything from barbecue to the horse racing.
Yep.
I mean, but we also have a lot of great history, and we're right on the river. So, I mean, there's just so many opportunities specifically in Louisville that may not be available in other areas. And so, yeah, I really love the supportive nature of our community here. Now, I think at one point, we were talking about you were getting your MBA at U of L, right?
Correct.
Did you finish that already?
So I graduate in October. So I'm
It's
in
almost here.
I'm in the last leg of my schooling, which is very, very exciting.
And I am so excited anytime I hear about an MD who's also getting an MBA, because we need more doctors who understand business. Because to your point earlier, you were saying, I don't appreciate taking orders from somebody who doesn't understand what goes into this. And I mean, that's a lot of what, I work as a nurse, you work as a doctor. That's a lot of what we have seen as gone wrong in healthcare, is people making decisions when they don't understand necessarily the trickle down effects of how that impacts the front line and the downstream effects on families and the patients. So I love it anytime I hear that physicians getting involved in business, because for a long time, doctors and nurses were like, oh, we don't want to think about money. We want to think about the people and what's best for them. And then it turns out the people get what makes sense to the people who run the money.
Exactly.
So I'm really excited that you're doing that, whether it takes on a medical side or not, which it kind of is. So tell us some more about what you're doing right now with your social media of Kristina Does Research. Let me share real quick about the video we were talking about before, where right now you're pregnant and you're like working through your blood sugar and keeping that under control while you're growing this baby. And you demoed in a reel on social media, or maybe also a TikTok. Did you post it on TikTok as well?
I have not actually. I've been so loyal to Instagram in the past few months. Every now and then I will share the same video, which I
Right.
feel like I should just be cross posting, but
Yes.
then I just totally forget.
I mean, otherwise you're leaving TikTok to all those people who don't have the knowledge that you
You're
have.
right.
You're
You're right.
depriving them of your wisdom, Kristina.
I don't know
They
about
need
that.
it too. So please cross post if you can. But you sampled a chocolate that was made with regular sugar or high fructose corn syrup, whatever it was, and then one that was made with dates as the sweetener. And you demonstrated like what your blood sugar was before you snacked on it, and then the same amount of snacking on the other one and taking your blood sugar 2 hours later, and showed which one made your blood sugar spike and by how much. And that was so beautiful, because I think so many people have no clue what real research is. They'll say, oh, I researched that, because they Googled it and they saw what the AI told them, or they saw the top 5 of what it used to be, like the top 5 things that Google popped up, right? That's not research. You performed an experiment on yourself. And that visual demonstration, I feel like, is so powerful and definitely like earns major authenticity points.
Thank you. So I love that you are breaking it down the way you are breaking it down because I feel like I could not have explained it better than you just did. I truly like well, first of all, like I love sweets. I'm not, I like to tell people, especially when I'm posting on social media, that I'm not perfect and I'm not here to tell you what to do or that what I'm doing is, the end all be all or the only thing that you should be doing. Absolutely not. It really is, you know, like you said, an experiment that I did on myself. And I thought there's no harm in sharing this fun little experiment because I think along the way, it'll help people as well try to understand like how to better take care of themselves and make better choices because they are out there. And, it was a Hershey's bar. And then I was comparing it to a chocolate bar that was made with organic dates and organic cacao. And those are the only ingredients. And frankly, I never was like a dark chocolate gal. I've been like a milk chocolate, white chocolate kind of gal. But with me now being pregnant, and this is what I talked about in my social media as well, I'm not just feeding myself. Like I'm trying to build the metabolism of my baby. And as you know, what we consume when, women are pregnant, it could greatly impact gut health, metabolism of our babies once they're out, right? And so I think just me having seen and me being so guilty of this with my first pregnancy as well, and just kind of like eating and using that time to just like consume as much food as I wanted to like comfort myself, which is understandably like the case for some women where that's the only thing you can consume because you're nauseous and you feel sick. And I went through that as well. So I get it. But I thought it was really important for me to show that there are options out there that don't
Mhm.
have to be so bad for you and they actually taste great. And look at what's going to happen to your blood sugar if you do eat this chocolate bar versus this other chocolate bar. So I thought it was just, like you said, it was a great way to have people visualize what that would look like. So,
And sharing your personal experience at the same time, which is exactly what we need. Like, I love using AI to make our lives better, but like, we want to hear from real people and
yeah,
their real experiences. And I think we're starved for that. And you're sharing that and being vulnerable. And I think that that is one reason everybody needs to follow at Kristina Does Research on whatever your social media is, because you're going to just love her content, whoever you are,
thank you.
because of that authenticity factor, and
Thank you.
the world needs more of that. I might also have to go get those chocolate bars with the dates in them because once a month I get to craving some chocolate. And so maybe I need some that's not going to spike my sugar as much.
Exactly. We all need to treat ourselves. I think that's the main point. I'm never going to be the type of person to say that don't ever have like a sweet treat or don't ever have like a salty snack or don't ever have like a cheat day or whatever you want to call it. Because for me, it's just not sustainable. I love food. I think a huge part of like why and how I enjoy life is by eating food with people I really love. And I know you and I have been to like events, food events, and we just had a great time. And it's I allot days like that and times like that to kind of just like enjoy myself and then not
Yeah.
to worry about like long-term consequences, if you will.
Exactly, because it's the habits that we have every day that really are the building blocks of our lives, and then we can have our celebratory times too. Speaking of which, what are some of your favorite places that you've encountered in Louisville that you feel like are really unique as far as local restaurants that you wish more people knew about? You want to give me the first three that come to your mind? I'm not going to say top three because you and I both know there's too many to rank in that way, but I'll let you just to go with the first 3 that come to your mind.
Yeah. So first of all, I love all types of cuisines. I can be a little bit partial to Asian food. And one of the restaurants that comes to mind is Oriental House, which I feel like a lot of locals know about because they've been around for so long. Kyushu is another one, which is a Japanese hibachi spot.
You
And
say Kyushu with a K?
Kyushu. Yeah.
You went out there with our foodie buddies just
Yes.
recently, didn't I missed it. I
Yes.
was so sad I couldn't
We'll have to
come.
go, you and I.
Yes.
It's a fun time, and my friend owns that restaurant, so
Nice.
yes.
So you're supporting your friend who's a business owner. What
Yes.
were we just saying?
And I truly believe that, like, it's one of the spots that just, like, reminds me of home and comfort food, and another one, I'm pretty sure a lot of people know about this restaurant, but it Porch is Porch
Yeah.
Restaurant, like, downtown is just
Is
one
that
of the
in the Omni?
Yes, that's the
Okay.
one. And so every time my family and I have been there, like Nathan and I brought Lucia there, like we've always had a great experience. And I feel like you can bring anybody there, like your friends, if you have like a business meeting, you get a brunch with your girlfriends. I've never had a bad experience when I've been there. So I feel like it's such a safe place to just like recommend because I've never had a bad time. So those are the three restaurants. And oh, I have to say, Rosa,
Yeah.
Grassa Grandma, the Italian restaurant. It's very medieval-esque on the inside, and why are you laughing?
I think okay. I don't know. So when I first walked into Grassa Grandma, it was right after we had been to Disney World, and
Huh,
I was like, "Am I back in Epcot? In the Italy of Epcot?" Because that was what it felt like to me. It's
yeah,
very immersive theming
right,
for
right,
Italy. You feel like you're walking into an Italian courtyard, but it is
exactly.
indoors. Yeah.
Which you would never expect just, like, being on the outside, because I think there's, like, a Kroger next to it, and then
Yes.
it's just in a very random place, and so when you go in, it's like, "Oh my gosh, am I in, like, a castle or something?" Like, some
Yeah.
but like you said, it's more of a thematic restaurant, which I love, and the food's great too.
Yes, which is what Kevin Granger is so known for is heavy theming in all of his restaurants. And so he was on the show and we had a good conversation about that one and Hotel Bourbon, which I just took my husband to Steakhouse Bourbon for his birthday. And girl, it was out of this world. And also that bread is dangerous.
Yes.
Did you have it?
Yes, we did, we've been, and it is amazing. See, there's so many restaurants, like, it's hard to pick just, 3.
Well, and the thing is, we just get so spoiled here. Like, I've been blessed to be able to travel to speak at different conferences related to healthcare stuff, whether it's AI or stroke or whatever lately. And I'll go to these wonderful cities like New York or Chicago or
Vegas.
LA or Miami. And I'll go to a really nice restaurant and I'm like, this is okay, but can I go back to Louisville now? Because I think our food might be better.
There is a lot of growth happening, right, in the Louisville food scene, and I think, like you said, we are very fortunate because we get to experience that, and there's nearly, like, 1 restaurant every couple of weeks or so that opens up, so it
Yeah.
gives us a lot more options to choose from, which is great.
And I think like the baseline for flavor is just higher. Like people just I think here we really can take for granted like the amount of flavor that goes in food because you go to these other cities and it's just not happening. And I'm not saying they're not putting enough salt on it because I'm from the South. I'm talking about like nuanced flavors. I mean, like our cocktails taste like they're made for grown-ups and you don't just put extra simple syrup in it. Like it's more nuanced, really.
Well, Louisville has an unfair advantage when you talk about, like, cocktails and all these drinks, naturally, because we have all these resources and we have access to the best bourbon in the world, so I think that's a cool thing.
I do think that matters. You're so right. Can you tell that we're just like fangirls of Louisville?
Yeah. Yeah, and we bond over food, so this is very, very fitting.
Yeah, definitely. So, what's your experience been like as a student in the MBA program while working a full-time job as a researcher?
Great question. So, I think I wanna preface it by saying that I, naturally voluntarily went into the MBA program because I really wanted to add it to, like, could be like another feather on my cap because I wanted to it almost like I was reverse engineering the entrepreneurship journey or process. I started a business or bought a business, and then after that, I'm getting my education. So I intentionally wanted to get an MBA because I value education, and I know there's a lot of, discussions and opinions about whether or not an MBA is worth it. Do I think that a $200,000 MBA program is worth it. And I'm not saying that's the cost of what Louisville's is. I just generally, like, if you talk about like Ivy League
Mm,
or things like that,
for sure.
well, there's a lot
Yeah.
of conversation about that. Like, is it even worth it? If you don't have the means to, further your education, I would say in business, the best way to learn about business is to do business or to be in business. There's no better way than to apply like, all these skills and all these foundational like um, pieces of knowledge. So when I went into it, I knew that I already had a foundation of what it took to like run a business and what it took to operate it. So I think I'm coming
Well, and I think we skipped this part because you're talking about your picnic business, right?
right. And I actually also started a business when I was in medical school in the Philippines. So it wasn't exactly like my first rodeo. So I've been doing it for years but the window cleaning business was the first one that actually allowed me to work and hire employees. So I would
Gotcha.
say that
Because
that
you were independently doing the other two.
right, like I was a solopreneur, if you will.
Mhm.
And I was,
Gotcha.
yeah, like you said. And so when I went into my MBA program, I had knowledge and a foundation of like what don't I know based on like the syllabus or the curriculum and what else could I learn from this and take from, the experiences I've already had over the years in business and how can I apply this in the future. So that was my mindset going into it. And I was very fortunate because the MBA program that I did go into was an online MBA program. So it was built to allow busy professionals to still succeed and learn. And I'm very grateful for the professors and the curriculum and the program director, Dr. Zach Goldman, because he is just very, very, all he wants is for you to be successful. So it was easy for me to be very, very passionate about like doing well in the program. And so I think it was also just very fitting because I worked at the time for the University of Louisville. So everything was sort of connected and it allowed me to not only grow my network, but realize how amazing the University of Louisville is and what they can provide to you in terms of like resources, support. And I can speak only to the College of Business specifically because they were the department I was under. And I had such a positive experience. Like, I am the type of person who told myself, especially after medical school, like, I'm never going to go back to school because this is so exhausting. And then here I am just hungry for even more opportunities to learn, whether that's through getting a formal education or whether that's applying myself and buying a business, right? So a lot of it I feel like was a mixture of luck and hard work because I lucked out in terms of the role I was in. It allowed me, you know, the opportunity and flexibility to do and work on my MBA. Other people don't have that opportunity to kind of do both at the same time. And I had that. So yeah.
Yeah, that's a big plus to it. And I think like if you work for the university, there hopefully there's a tuition discount as well. So if somebody wants to go back to
Exactly.
school, you can always consider trying to work for a university and go to school there to make it more affordable. Because I
Exactly.
mean, we're all about debt minimization. So, like you were talking about, is it worth the cost and not just what you're going to recoup, but can you handle incurring the cost throughout the process? Like, I've definitely met some people who were talking up going to Ivy League schools for an MBA, which it's apparently a lot easier to go to an Ivy League school for a graduate program than for a bachelor's program, especially if you've had a career already. But the value is the network, is what they keep telling me, more than like the academics. So the value is going there in person, meeting these other Ivy League people, and then you have this network of people. And it seems like more like you're paying for access to these other people. Whereas the program you described now sounds more like you get access to the information and some mentorship, but it's not like you're meeting your other classmates. Or did you get to meet your other classmates?
Yeah. So naturally, with it being an online MBA, a lot of the interactions I had with my classmates, I've never even like met my classmates in person. I think the only people I've really met were the program directors and the other co-presidents who, whenever we would have like these leadership meetings, naturally we would meet in person. But to your point, access is very important. And I think it's what a lot of people do when they decide or intend to do when they decide to go into like an MBA program. They build their
Mhm.
network.
Yeah.
And that's what I got with the MBA program because I was running the window cleaning business while I was in my MBA program. So I leveraged that to expand my network and even got more visibility because of me being in the MBA program. I wouldn't have otherwise been able to meet the people I met and grow and scale the business and have all these like wonderful partnerships for the business specifically had I not been part of the MBA program. I imagine it would have been so much harder if I wasn't in the university system just makes everything feel so much smaller. And so I was very open about my journey too. I told, my program director knew about it and I wasn't trying to like hide it or anything. So because I knew that I was going to need the guidance and support of people who were, in the College of Business and they knew people in the community who would be great to network with. So I think a lot of it was very strategic and intentional.
You think? I think you were. Yes, and I love that. I love that so much, and here's the thing is I don't know anybody else in your class. Maybe you do, but I bet you might have gotten more out of that program than anyone else because of your openness and your vulnerability and sharing your entrepreneurial journey and asking for help, asking for advice so that they could then respond and maybe you would not have met any of those people if you hadn't said, "Hey, I have this specific need." And they're like, "Hey, I can help with that."
And I think that's one thing that you need to learn about in entrepreneurship is asking for help. And I was very, very open about what I didn't know, what I needed to know, and what I was really good at. So I wasn't ashamed to ever admit. I used to be, I think back, you know, way back when, but I think it's given me, coming to America has given me the confidence to just say, it's okay if like I don't know something and it's not gonna bite me back in the butt if I admit to somebody. And I've always had positive responses every time I've said to
Mhm.
somebody. And I've reached out to you two multiple times. And so I've built friendships because I was openly saying, hey, like I don't know this person or I don't know how to do this. Can you like help me? So it's all about like how you frame it and how you I guess, like, the mindset you have around not knowing something and actually doing something about it.
Yeah, I was reading something about how people are more likely to have feelings of fondness towards someone they have been able to help than someone that they've received help from.
I like that.
And that was really interesting. I wish I could remember where I heard that from. If I remember, I'll text it to you.
Sure.
But yeah, people want to feel like they have purpose and meaning. And so if we don't ask for help, then we're depriving them of feeling that purpose and meaning and like their life has, been a benefit to someone else. At one point, there's these country kids and they're taken into this rich house during the World War when the bombings are happening in London and they're servants are going to carry their bags up to their room. And the kids were like, well, we can get it ourselves, trying not to be a burden. And the housekeeper is like, one must not deprive people of their function 'cause everyone has their part to play.
I agree.
And that really, not to say that other people's function and meaning is to serve you, but at the same time, it can make you feel like you have purpose. So
Well,
to
100%.
help somebody.
100%.
Definitely. Well, awesome. Well, I feel like I've gotten to know you even better, and I have to invite you to do more podcasts so we can spend more time together because we're always so
There's
busy.
always yes.
Yes, score. And I bet you'd have a new business every year for us to talk about. So that would be good.
We'll do a part 2 for sure.
Exactly. We could do that. And so I think I shouted it out earlier, but people need to follow you at Kristina Does Research, and I will put your links in the show notes. Do you have a website or anything where people can find you?
I do have a newsletter, and I just made sort of like a breadcrumb announcement of what I'm working on that I'm launching late July, early August. Rosa, you already know about it, but if people want to check me out on Beehive, I do have it's under the same name. It's Kristina Does Research.
For those who are listening, if you enjoyed this episode of the Lou Review podcast and getting to know Kristina, who is making Louisville a great place to be, please like and subscribe. And leave a comment on Spotify or YouTube or Apple, wherever you're listening. Let us know what you liked, if you have any questions. And if you are not already, feel free to follow me on Instagram as well. It's at Rosa Raves. And that's where I post my food and local and travel stuff. And the Lou Review podcast has a Facebook page, and our website is loureview.com. This podcast is made possible by the Lou Review Foundation, which is dedicated to amplifying the messages of the businesses and nonprofits in Louisville that make it great. So I hope you will subscribe and turn on your notifications to find out when there's a next episode. And I will see you there.